Hi, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk and for unboxings.com. Here I have the Canon EOS 500D, which is one of the newer EOS models from Canon. This one being the sort of, I suppose, mid-range or slightly lower prosumer range. There is the 1000D, which is the entry level. 500D is kind of a bit of a step up. Then obviously you've got the 5D and then the 1DS. So this is sort of I guess you call it kind of mid-range prosumer. First of all, the manual, warranty information, getting started guide, and CD-ROM there with the software for transferring your images and processing your raw images from the camera. Inside the box, then we have the camera itself, and what I have here is just the body, and body is here like that. It's a fairly compact digital SLR, certainly a little smaller than the 50D that I'm used to, but we'll look at that in a bit more detail in just a second. Also in the box we have a standard USB to mini USB sync cable for downloading the images from the camera to the PC, obviously the Mac. Have a neck strap, which is pretty much essential, I would say, for a digital SLR. Then we have another cable, which has got a mini USB style connector. It isn't mini USB, that's certainly not quite. It's similar, but you'll notice the design is slightly different, and it has pins on both sides. And this is for connecting up to a TV with a composite and audio. And then a UK power cable and the charger. Notice the charger is external, so you have to remove the battery from the camera in order to charge. And then finally, just a complete mess, this is the cover that goes over the battery for transport. The battery is already installed in the camera itself. So let's take a look at the camera. First thing I notice about the 500D, and as I say that I am used to the 50D, is that it is quite lightweight. I appreciate that there's no lens attached at the moment, and the lens can contribute a very significant proportion of the weight, but the body on its own is fairly light. So quick look around the camera then. On the top we obviously have the hot shoe for the flash, and if I turn on, we also have a pop-up flash on the top. Now this can be set to pop up automatically if you're in auto shooting mode, which this is set to at the moment, or you can manually pop it up if you are in any other modes. We have a mode dial on top, currently set to auto. Then you have creative auto, program AE mode, aperture priority as well as shutter priority, manual, and an automatic depth of field mode. Then in the more automated modes you have a setting for portrait, taking pictures of landscapes, macro, fast moving, night, flash off, and video mode. We'll look at the video mode a bit later on. So then we have a button here for changing the ISO setting. Obviously your on off switch here. There's a dial that we use to actually change some of the settings throughout the camera. Depending on what we're actually looking at on the screen and what settings we actually have at a particular point in time is what that dial actually does. So if we go into program AE mode and we move the dial, we actually change the ISO setting. So you have the shutter release just on the front there, which falls just under the finger there. We have a large screen, and it is actually quite a high res display. It's 920,000 dots. So it is quite high res, pretty much the same as on the 50D. You have a menu button and a display button, and the menus are quite extensive and very detailed, that you can control all aspects obviously of the camera through the menus there. We have different AV modes. We have a pitch bridge button that lights up when we actually connect to a pitch bridge capable printer. We have this kind of crosshair arrangement here. This is for navigating around the menu. And also when we're actually shooting, we can turn on the self timer, the white balance, autofocus, There's also a set button in centre, a play button so that we can actually preview or review our photographs, and a delete button. Then we have a zoom button, not zoom for the lens but zoom for the pictures that we're showing on the screen. And also these are different modes for changing the focus points, because there's nine focus points, and these can actually be changed. The order and focus points can be changed with that button there. On this side we have a memory card slot. It does take SD and SDHC up to I believe 16 gig in spec, but I would suspect that it will probably take up to 32. On the other side I have a rubber cover over HDMI, a mini HDMI output, so you can display your stills and videos on an HDMI capable video input. And then we have our AV digital and USB connector there, and then finally there is a plug-in point there, so you can plug in the remote, so you can actually remotely trigger the shutter. On the bottom we simply have one slot for the battery, which is obviously held in place by a spring there, and that covers up like so. And then we have a point where we can obviously mount a tripod, a standard tripod mounting screw thread there. On the front then, not much to see really. We obviously, the flash pops up from this point here, which we've already seen. We have a button here that releases the lens if there's a lens in place, and obviously we have a lens cover at the moment in place. Button to pop up the flash manually, and then there's a depth of field sort of simulation button, so that when you're looking through the viewfinder you simulate the what the depth of field is for the actual shot. On the back there is actually an infrared sensor, and there's also one on the front, so that if you have an infrared remote trigger for the shutter, you can actually use that light through there. So in terms of a quick rundown of specification of a camera this type is pretty long, and you know, too much to mention in one video, but the headlines are, I guess, a 15.1 megapixel APS CMOS sensor. We can record full HD 1080p at 20 frames a second. 20 frames a second not particularly fast, so you can drop down to 720p and record at a full 30 frames a second. ISO sensitivity 100 to 3200, which is expandable to 12800. Picture does get rather noisy if you go that high. We can shoot a maximum of 3.4 frames a second in burst mode, continuous shooting, and we can store a maximum of 170 large images in a single burst. That is a 3-inch clear view display, as I mentioned already. 9-point wide area autofocus with a cross-type center point. High-speed Digic 4 processor, which is the same sort of processor that you find in the higher end cameras from Canon. The 50D also has a Digic 4 processor, and incidentally the 50D also has the same CMOS sensor. We have the integrated cleaning system, so when you turn the camera on and off, the CMOS sensor actually has a kind of a vibrate function. It vibrates ultrasonically, which the idea is to dislodge any dust or debris that has actually got on the sensor. And we are obviously fully compatible with all the Canon EF and EFS lenses, and all the different flashes that you can actually put on the hot shoe, the TTL type flashes. So that is pretty cool. It's a pretty full-featured camera. We'll talk about it in a bit more detail when it comes to doing our full review. I guess the one of the biggest benefits of this particular camera over and above its predecessor is the ability to shoot the video, and we'll be doing a little bit of video shooting, and we'll have a demo video for you when it comes to doing our full review, and perhaps we'll actually even record a couple of unboxing videos using the Canon 500D. Our review will be online on tracymac.co.uk over the next couple of days, and if you're a fan of unboxing videos, check out the others that we have on unboxings.com.